access to information and sometimes misinformation that people have about government grants. So I'm from AusIndustry. AusIndustry is a program delivery branch of the Department of Industry. It used to be that one with all of the departments in it that no one was ever allowed to say, but now we're just back to the Department of Industry, which is very, very, very easy to understand. So we handle about $2 billion worth of business every year. I think the 16 years experience we've got, and I was speaking to a gentleman here before, have come in many formations over the years, but AusIndustry has always been a brand and continues to remain a brand of the department that is recognisable, so, and that's what we do. So there we go, that's what we do. We range, this is the one I wanted to get to. Where does the money come from? I need you to understand, I think, Steph?
Can we get these materials after the talk?
Yes.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah.
What we'll do is if the panel gives them to us, we'll post them up on our website.
Sure.
Best.
This is really interesting for me because I don't think enough people understand how a grant comes about, where the money comes from, and where it goes to. So, you and I pay taxes to the ATO. The ATO manages that tax very poorly, in my opinion, on my behalf. They take far too much away from me, and they give it to the Treasury. So the Treasury people who are the ones you see on TV about now, who are talking about the budget and having a great time with it, departments like the Department of Industry put in new policy proposals. New policy proposals for consideration and allocation of new grant proposals based on industry, what's going on in the industry out there. Intelligence was the word I was looking for. Based on industry intelligence, what we're finding, what we're thinking, certainly based on the government mantra of the day. They are then delivered and developed into programs and services for delivery by various agencies, whether they be social and or investment or economic, which is, I think today we're all about the economy and economic development. So AusIndustry review applications that then come through for those grants. We then go through the whole thing. Guess what? We've got new money, and if you're going to do this, we've got money for you. Aren't we fantastic? And we get your application, and we go tick, tick, cross, cross. We liaise with you, get your grant up. It goes to the Innovation Australia Board, which will then have the ultimate yay or nay, and you'll get your grant. So we support the companies and businesses to do their projects and have fantastic runs on the board, and we report back to government about how wonderful you are and say, yes, we're meeting all the targets and the money is doing exactly what we thought it would do. And it turns into innovation, services and products, it turns into exports, it turns into jobs, it turns into all sorts of things. And you employ people who then pay taxes, and it goes round and round again. And basically, so there's never any new money. When we talk about new grants, it's always money that's already in the system, but it's always it's a reallocation, so it's never new money. So I hope that makes it a bit clearer for people about where the money actually comes from.
Another President.
Sure.
So over, say, the last 5 to 7 years that this has been running,
Yes.
has the allocation of funding through whatever program it is been the same, or is it increased, or is it decreased?
At the moment, we're in a very holding pattern because the government is about to release their first budget. So there's really not a lot of new anything at the moment.
Yeah, but
over the last
is it gone down in comparison to, say, population growth is still the same amount of money available, or is it gone down?
It's not a stable bucket. It's highly fluctuating, and it will depend very much on the politics and what the government sees as priorities of the day. I think historically, it has its peaks and troughs, and generally it's in response to something. It's in response to either BHP closing down in Newcastle, or climate change was certainly the last peak. And now this government's main focus is not necessarily on climate change, so there will be a trough in that particular area. But we're all looking forward to a reallocation, we hope, but we can't guarantee it. So until we know, we don't know. So, and that's the way it is.
So that means you basically, the policy areas of funding changes. The amount of money doesn't, but the areas of emphasis
And
change.
the money
Well,
changes, the money changes too.
It's up to the government of the day to make
Right.
decisions about
Yeah,
the
the
funding
policy
based on
changes, the policy people will only develop policy around their instructions from the government of the day. Our policy people don't necessarily, look, that's actually not right. We actually do come up with new ideas that would fit within the government's view and to be funded, but generally they're driven by, initiatives of the government, firstly, at first point of call. But certainly, look, there is scope for new policy proposals for, things a bit outside the square. We're always being told to do business differently. We're always being told to be innovative. We're always being told to, live dangerously, so to speak. But I know a lot that haven't got up, and they're really good. But it really is. This is a highly political journey. So, yeah.
We'll have another 10 questions, but I'll hold on.
Hold on.
We'll have a panel discussion afterwards, so if you can hold off on the questions, that'd be great.
Sure. So, we'll just skip through these because they're very basic. So, sorry. Here we go. So the R&D tax incentive is one I did want to bring to your attention. Before I do that, I would also like to say that if you're thinking about going into business and if you're starting a business, don't rely on government grant funding for a start. Government grant funding is going to get you where you want to be, but you need to be able to get there by yourself. This is just going to be a help along the way, but we will actually see through the fact that you need the money to keep afloat. That's not what AusIndustry is about. There may be other opportunities for you elsewhere, but AusIndustry is about expansion, growth, jobs, economic development, that sort of thing. So and I did a bit of research this morning because I wanted to make sure I was still current, but historically research tells us that there is a high proportion of new businesses that fail in their first or second year of operation. It is known that this is predominantly in the non-employing sector, that is the sole trader. Now, the sole trader can or may make a great fist of it and go great guns, and then will come through government grant funding programs, and we've seen people blossom and grow and be sold off and be international companies. But the ones that we hear about, and the statistics tell us that the ones we most hear about are the ones that don't, and unfortunately that business person goes broke or shuts down or loses interest or whatever. Another reason the statistics are skewed is because that person will go into business and think they really want to be an IT guru. I just want to be an IT guru. But then they actually find out that they're actually a designer. So they go into design. So it actually falls into different categories. So it's different categories that actually skew the figures a little bit. So, it sort of explains the reasons why the Commonwealth money, your money, my money, is very heavily regulated when it comes to grants. And I guess, there are limited resources for startups, certainly with AusIndustry, but these people have a lot to talk about. So that's a bit about the background to where AusIndustry fits in.
Click later.
So the R&D tax incentive, there are some pamphlets out in front there. The R&D tax incentive is a very generous, it is an incentive. AusIndustry delivers this on behalf of the tax department. If you're doing, and it goes across all industries and all categories. If you're doing research and development, basically in any form, you need to be aware of the R&D tax incentive. My learned friend is very across the R&D tax incentive. It's not a very easy program to. Just leave that
I don't know anything about it.
It's a highly complex grant program, but once you do it, it's simply a matter of repopulating after that, is my understanding. Is that about right?
Well, no, you really should self-assess each
yeah.
year. But once you've done it the first time or two, you do start to get a good feel for the sorts of things that you've got.
Yeah, and then the paraphernalia at the front and the website, and I do think it's quite quirky, but we've actually just produced a guide to interpretation. I think that's a fantastic title for a book, A Guide to Interpretation of the R&D Tax Incentive Program. So I won't go into depth about what it is today, but it's actually a 45% incentive on your business tax. And so it's out there, it's for you. I can't stress enough about just,
Perhaps just say one thing that gives it a really good context. If you are a company that is a startup and you're doing eligible activities, genuinely eligible activities, and you're in losses, because as a startup you usually don't have much revenue and you've got lots of expenditure. If you spent $100,000 on R&D, on genuine R&D, the 45-cent tax credit means that you would get a cheque back from the ATO for $45,000, which is very helpful in the next year. I mean, that's at the very base level. There's scales. If you're above 20 million, you don't get the refundable amount, but
That's over and above the company tax.
well, the 30 cents of that 45 cents would be your normal deduction. The
Right.
15 cents is the uplift. So I suppose if I'm a company that's in profit, what it means if I'm a company in profit is that for every 100,000 I'm spending, I'm essentially claiming 150,000, which translates into me paying 15 cents in the dollar, or if I've spent 100,000, $15,000 less tax. So it's either going to reduce your tax bill, or if you're in a loss position, you can elect to cash out the deduction and get a cash check back. So it is a program that a lot of startups who are in the technology space, who are doing technically eligible activities, rely on to fund their R&D.
So research in any way, and so remember that the whole idea of research and development is doing some sort of project with an unknown outcome. So it can't be something that I know that's the answer, but I just don't know how to get there. That's not what we're talking about. We're just really, we're talking about proper research and development. So just very quickly, some other programs we have. Commercialisation Australia is unfortunately currently not accepting applications, but I just wanted to tell you that it's out there and to look out for something into the future. And it's very profitable and generous, up to $2 million for businesses. There's several categories about, and it'll take you through a journey through skills and knowledge, early commercialisation, proof of concept, and so we're hoping that one, we're all on hold with that one with the May budget, I'm afraid. So unfortunately, it's an interesting time to talk to you about what we've got. EPBS, I could only wish that some of you were involved in EPBS, which is the Enhanced Project Bylaw Scheme, and that's predominantly for people, sort of working in the millions. TradeX is interesting if any of you are importing and exporting anything. If you are importing anything from anywhere and then doing anything with it and then exporting it, you need to learn about TradeX. Because TradeX will take away the customs and GST requirement for payment, and basically all you do is you're provided with a TradeX number, and then you quote the number, and so you don't have to pay. What it does is actually, it's a cash flow benefit to you. Your money is not tied up because you actually get it back when you export it, but all it does is circumvent that. So if you're doing anything with anything about export, you need to know about TradeX. We offer business support and advisory services as well. The Small Business Advisory Services program provides funding for your business enterprise centres. You may have heard about business enterprise centres throughout the states and territories, and services they provide. And I know that Lighthouse has a wonderful project called Biz Lab. It's funded through that program, which we're very proud of Anna and her team, who have done a wonderful job with that, and it's featuring in my brand new newsletter coming out to an email near you soon. The Textile Clothing and Footwear Small Business Program was funded for 10 rounds, and the last of which is next year. If you're working in the textile clothing and footwear small business area, have a close look at this. We had a session on this at Lighthouse recently, but there's information on that as well. But that'll be the last round it was actually funded for. Yeah, and that's been over 10 years, which has gone very quickly. So you don't want to know about our vision. We have wonderful people like me. So have a look. Please leave me or give me your email details. I'll be happy to put you on my list for my new Oz Focus, and I'm all about promoting the ACT and region. My region goes is sort of the Riverina and the Murray across to Western New South Wales, and the greater ACT region is what I call it. So there you go. Thank you very much.